Okay, g'day folks. I wanted to make a video on the HDR and Reshade presets that I have made. I've only really made two of them. One I'm not too happy with and I've stopped using it, and another one I am really happy with. I recommend, of course, you watch this video in 4K or the absolute highest possible quality you can, even if you're watching on a mobile or a small device, otherwise you won't really get to see much of the difference here. The changes I've made are very subtle. Currently I have the preset on now. So this is how my character looks with the preset on. I will, of course, show what it is off in a moment, but I wanted to start the video with it on to give you an idea, and then I'm going to turn it off. So this is the one that I'm currently using. I did have one that I was extremely happy with, but unfortunately I managed to not back it up and delete it. And this is the best I've been able to do to essentially copy what I had done before. I'm really happy with this one. Please also make note that Age of Conan does have a day and night cycle. Therefore, it is really important when you're making a preset that the preset you make doesn't make the night too dark or too unrealistic or the day too bright or again unrealistic. So this is the preset and what it looks like at night in Conan Village. I really like it. To me, it looks really nice, really natural, and it looks like nighttime. It looks kind of how I would expect this to look at night. It's really, really nice and dark. The shadows are really deep. Yeah, like everything in general is just really, really pretty and I think really well done. The fog is still very visible. There's, yeah, no FPS drops or any other things like that at all. Yeah, in general, it's really, really good. There is some problems with the game in VSync, which is why the FPS does jump around quite a lot. Some parts of maps are a bit more taxing on the graphics, some aren't. I'm using a 4090, so I have no problems generally with lag or anything, but there are some effects. For instance, we've gone down to sort of 140 here, but then back here we were sort of more up to kind of like when we were at this area we were a lot higher. We're going back up again, so yeah. But anyway, this is what the game looks like with the preset on, and now I will turn it off, and I will show what it looks like with it off. So this is, I've just called it Reshade Perfect, and I'll of course put a link to download this. So let's turn it off. Now you can see, in my eyes, I don't know how this is going to look on YouTube, but this is completely different for me. Now you have the ground and it's all lit up really, really brightly. There's really unnatural light kind of lighting the whole ground up everywhere. The fire, everything, it doesn't really look like nighttime in my, to me personally. There's still this sort of blue haze, but you can see a lot further. It doesn't look anywhere near as realistic. It just kind of looks a little bit dark. Like it's meant to be, according to the time here, almost 1 a.m. like in-game time. And this doesn't really look like that. It just looks dull and kind of weird. But let's just do it justice and go back through everything. It's still quite nice and dark here. The shadows, though, they aren't anywhere near as deep now. It's nowhere near as deep. But I'll just put it back on just quickly. So yeah, in my mind, it's really like night and day difference. Like no pun intended. This is nighttime. You can still see the god rays. I've turned them on. Like you can still see the really nice god rays here from the moon, which is fantastic. Like you can even still see it like through the tree. If I could just get my camera out of the grass for a second, it's really, really nice, the filtered light. But then to turn it off, like this is what the game looks like literally out of the box. This to me is like, yeah, I'm not happy with this like at all. And then yeah, so if we come back here, it's just like there's a lot of this unnatural light on the ground. I'll just put it back on again. Just looks so much nicer to me. Like you can see the light kind of comes more from the torch here with the preset on. You actually have like this kind of area here with the light. It's lit up this area here. But if you turn it off again, it just doesn't really look like the light is really doing anything. Like it is a little bit brighter here, but so is the rest of the ground. So there isn't really any of this kind of like, you know, proper realistic-ish looking lighting. And then we come into the market here, and yeah, in the distance it just looks a little bit blue and sort of foggy, but there isn't really like a good excuse for it to kind of be that foggy in the background. Yeah, like you can sort of see the stars in the night sky, kind of. There is some banding, from the moon here, and then again we just put this back on, and it's a lot harder to see the banding, and it's a much darker, and then we kind of get this sort of, again, really nice kind of light here. Obviously, the light isn't that well accurately casted because it just kind of cuts off here sort of for no reason, and it cuts off kind of there as well. But it's much more obvious like where the light sources are coming from, like especially in here under the market as well. If we just turn it off again, it's like much more difficult to sort of tell where that comes from. Yeah, so I've tried my best to kind of keep the overwhelming sort of like art style of Age of Conan, like the prettiness of everything. Yeah, and just kind of basically make a decent HDR preset for the game. I have a nice monitor, it's a QD OLED, so this to me is like perfect. I don't mind that it is a bit darker, simply because it just looks more realistic to me. It just looks much nicer. Like if you come down and look at this other player here, if I could just get out between these boxes, like the light kind of shadow casting on him is really nice. Like I think it looks much more natural. It looks way better. And then also just the shadows and like how they react on your character as well. They're a lot more like realistic. I mean, like having the actual darkness here as opposed to turning this, and then you sort of can just really not even kind of notice that, oh, there's a shadow like on my character at the moment. But yeah, I think this is about as good as it's gonna get. So I'll just show you what I've turned on to give you an idea. So I'm just using this sort of fake HDR preset. The things I've changed here are the radius. I've turned them down, both of them down a bit. I'm using LumaSharpen, which just makes the game look so much sharper. Like maybe you can't really tell in YouTube, but it just makes the game look so much less blurry. In general, like all of the textures, all the ground textures, character textures, everything. It just really improves everything. It does add a few jagged edges, but it's not so bad. And then bloom, this is much better bloom than the in-game bloom. I have the in-game bloom and everything else disabled. I've also turned the the brightness from, I think it was at 1.0. I've turned it to 0.95. It's just an ever so slight change to the game's actual brightness, but it's really important, I think, to do this because of the way the game's brightness works and the way Reshade's brightness works. So in any case, yeah, there's the bloom. I've changed that. You won't really see a difference to bloom in the daytime. Like you basically won't see any difference, but it does, sorry, at the nighttime, but it does make a huge difference in the daytime. And I've increased the saturation just a little bit. You might like that, you might not. It does make the haze a little bit more blue. I was thinking about maybe tweaking it a bit more so the saturation actually doesn't add as much blue, but it saturates the other colors. So you still get this nice sort of darkness, but I kind of feel like, to be honest, the moon would kind of give this sort of more bluish sort of hue here. And again, if we just sort of look at it and then turn it off, like there it is with it off, and there it is with it on. I kind of feel like, to be honest, it makes sense to have it like that. And that's really it. There's one other preset that I have, which I'll show now, and that is my old Bloodsport one. I'm not really a fan of this preset. If we turn it off, there it is with it off. Here it is on. Now, as you can see, it's not as kind of blue as having the perfect one on. Like here's the perfect one, and here's the blood spoiled one. However, it's kind of muted a lot of the red as well, as you can sort of see here. So the red in my, the red in my cape, it's quite nice in this, but then putting it on blood spoiled, it sort of tends to kind of make it a bit darker. And the skin tones in particular, it tends to have a real problem with. And there's just this kind of, I don't know, like I liked it for a while until I went to Kemi, and then I was like, oh wow, all the sands, everything is way too red. Like there's too much red. I could tweak it as well, but yeah, you can also still see the effect of the lighting pretty well, but I don't think it's as good as this. I think this is so much better. Like if you want to really see how they're lit up and stuff, I think this is better. Like yeah, it's different. Like I wouldn't say it's neither good nor bad, but it's different. Like the Bloodspoiled one is different. Um, yeah, like it's just different. I definitely wouldn't really use it because I feel like there's a bit of a sort of Instagram filter over everything. But you might like that, and it will really depend on your monitor as well. But there's a bit too much red. If you look at how red my health bar is here, and even my name, it's meant to be orange, but now it's kind of like really red. I think it's a bit much. This is much better. We're back to proper orange now, and the red isn't so like overdone. But yeah, I hope you guys like this. I'll leave a link in the description for you to download it. Mind you, I have HDR on Windows. I've turned that on my monitor. I have a full 1000 nit brightness monitor with full proper HDR certification, so it's not some cheap HDR 400 monitor. I have an Alienware QD ultra wide, and on my television, this also just looks fantastic. I have an LG OLED TV as well. It just looks really, really good. So it'll be different for you if you have a monitor that doesn't have as good dynamic range, or it's not QD OLED or OLED or proper HDR certified or whatever. It might be quite a lot darker for you. I have no idea. So just tweak them to your liking. The thing you should just play with is just maybe increase the radius a bit. But I found that turning it down also reduces a lot of the haze in the distance. So we'll just turn this off again. So it is a little bit easier to see in the distance now, but this to me is not nighttime. Like the moon is out, but it's not really nighttime. And yeah, I'll also make a video showing it in the daytime as well, because this is a bit longer than I wanted it to kind of look in the, like, you know, this video is a bit longer than I was expecting to make it. So yeah, but anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.